Hi, everyone. I'm Jenny Laker, and this is
Laurie Woodward.
welcome to our show, Love at First Page.
Conversations between a producer and a screenwriter.
We are more than happy to have you here week after week joining us for our conversations that we have about the very, very important topic on how to get your screenplay to screen. And we covered so many topics along the road. And thank you for being part of that. And we would love you to join us on our social media channels. And as well, do not forget to
Subscribe and push that like button. We need you.
because it's important. We are doing this for you guys. We're not doing that because we wouldn't talk otherwise. We talk. We talk all the time. And pitching, this is the first step. You have to not just get the connection. This is what we talked about so much, but
Mhm.
also have like this professionalism to be able to bring across what you have to offer and why it matters, why your story matters to the world, and why it has to get out there, being made.
Mhm.
And once you have this trust basis, like you have a first conversation and it feels so right, and you think, okay, let's take the next step.
Mhm.
This is how you end your first conversation, most likely. Then th we have to do some paperwork. We have to do our
Mhm.
homework, right, Miss
Exactly.
Teacher?
First, do your homework, get to know what producers might match your style of writing, and then pitch them.
Yeah, and Laurie and I, this is a very important point. When you reach out, you have to do your research. You have to do your homework, finding out who are the people that you are about to talk to and pitch to. But Laurie and I, we are talking about a lot of manifestation and attracting what
Yeah.
belongs to us, that it will find us
Mhm.
eventually. And so, in our case, this was kind of the thing. So you were in this energy. You were stepping into that space. I'm ready. I let
Mhm.
go of my baby. I'm ready. I want to put it out there and I go the extra mile. And this requires from you as a writer to be like on spot all the time because like in our case, Laurie once got a call, just you have to be on the call today and tell your story. How did you feel about that? Being overwhelmed in this minute, like after reaching out to so many people, you got the phone call, the
Mhm.
call.
Yes, I did. Yeah. Well, terrified and excited. Well, before that, I had pitched to several different producers and agents, and they had given me notes, which I thank you to everyone who gave me notes, and then I'd use those to make the pitch better. So then, luckily, we moved on, and then I pitched to you, and
You were so, and I hope I can share this with the audience.
okay.
You were so excited. You had this positive stage fright feel when you pitched to me, and it was and this was what touched me because I could feel you were so euphoric, enthusiastic, and you read this pitch that you to me. And even though you read it because it was really like you wanted to be perfect, I
Mhm.
could
Yes, I
feel
did.
this fire. I could feel
Mhm.
you were really, and your voice was trembling because you were not used to it, and you were so
Mhm.
excited. It was not just the nervousness, it was as well the excitement in your voice that when you are in love or when you're so happy about something that you could just any minute start crying right off the bat.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
this is what I felt when you
Mhm.
pitched it.
Mhm.
And this was the first very basic connection that is essential that you have to transport in a pitch. And then, yes, comparables is all important.
Mhm.
But what a lot of writers do not look into, and also like directors and producers in the indie world, a lot of people they approach it from the perspective of having comparables of what they intend their movies to be, and they don't look at the time or the situation when these movies were made. Narnia, for instance, was another day in time. When you compare Artenia to Narnia, I wouldn't have picked it up because I wouldn't have the capacity of a studio, big studio, to do it.
Mhm.
Because this would not be something that you pitch then to an indie producer. But on the other hand, time has changed, luckily. So when you look for comparables, look for something that is more relevant. Look for something that is post-COVID. Because after that, a lot in terms of technology has shifted and has
Mhm.
changed.
Mhm.
And even though everybody's talking about the downside of COVID, it has enabled us as well to look beyond what was traditionally more as a category for the big studios, a big tentpole production, whereas
Mhm.
now with technology in place, and we had our episode on that one, it's now possible.
Mhm.
But what comes along with that is knowing your field and not just your craft, but also your field. It's business still.
Mhm.
It's
It is.
still business.
Yes. Yeah. Well, to your earlier point, you're going to be nervous,
Hmm.
and I was nervous.
Hmm.
So one of the best things to do, because you're going to be nervous. These people are a little bit intimidating, and they hear pitches all the time, and and so you want yours to sound
Cool.
good. So, practice, practice, practice. Read in front of a mirror. What I did is I actually taped myself on my phone and then listened to it and said,
That's
well, how does
good.
it sound here? Oh, that sounds a little stilted. Maybe I'll try to emphasize this word a little bit more. And then I practiced again and again. And I was still nervous
Me
because I'm
too.
I'm naturally a little bit of a shy person, but it really helps. So that's another tip. Before you get ready for your pitch, especially an oral pitch,
Yeah.
make sure to practice, your pitch.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Mhm.
then you pitch successfully to the producer, and the producer says, "Oh yeah, well this is interesting. Okay, you come together for another call,
Mhm.
and maybe another call, depending on how much you have back and forth questions about how to collaborate and how the model works and what their model is."
Mhm.
And so we at Sinvest, we go a very, very straight approach. So we talk, we see if it fits, if the screenplay is at a stage that is already in this stage that we can start working together. We start this right away. If there needs a little bit more time or reflection on the writer's side, you have time to think about it. In our case, it was pretty much straightforward.
Mhm.
We had already, like, you had all these mentors that were helping you to get your screenplay to this level. And so I was in a position where I got a script which I could option right away, and
Mhm.
which I did option. So it was not so much that we worked so long before I optioned it. It was pretty much the decision was made in the first conversation that I'd option it. Although we then had our next meeting and our next meeting, and then we pulled in our lawyers. And
Mhm.
how did this feel from your perspective? I mean, I'm more used to that than
Well,
you.
and that is something I do want to make clear. All of this is just our journey. In no way is any of this legal advice for anyone out there. You want to get your own legal representation when you get either a shopping agreement or an option agreement. That's very important. That's something that we did. We brought in lawyers to protect both of us.
Yeah,
Just you want to do it, and you want a lawyer that has experience in the entertainment industry. And there's some that specifically, do. You can look on IMDb. They actually have lawyers on IMDb that have entertainment experience. Or you can look for referrals, from other friends in the industry, which is what I did, and then move forward, and make sure that the wording is good for everyone. That, as I said, everyone's protected. That everyone's interests are represented fairly,
yeah,
and that there's no wording in the contract that's going to, you know potentially hurt anybody in the long run. So that's what you want to do for either a shopping agreement or an option agreement, which kind of segues into what's the difference between a shopping agreement and an option agreement. Now,
yeah.
Danny and I have an option agreement.
And
which it,
before we
yes.
got there, and this is because it happens so fast and it's so many
Mhm.
different steps we have to get our audience to be able to follow. Before we had all this writing, we first sat together, having our lawyers in the room with us and talking about the terms. And
Mhm.
this makes a lot of sense because each document that you create, and this is an advice that I give you to save you time, money, mostly money, because each document that the lawyer creates is equally his working hours and the assistant and whoever
Mhm.
he puts into. And
Mhm.
so, long story short, what you should do is like, yeah, bullet points. Write it down what you agree in a first conversation where you have like a chat with your producer from the writer's perspective, where you have like the points laid out that should be part of the
Mhm.
agreement. And then you get your lawyers to work. And in this conversation, you evaluate as well, what do I want as a
Mhm.
writer? Do I want to have a shopping agreement or an option agreement? And you're right. What's the difference? You should do your homework before you enter those
Mhm.
conversations. So, what is
Exactly.
the difference?
Um, well, an option agreement is an exclusive to a producer for a term.
Hmm.
A shopping agreement, all rights stay with the writer, and the producer then has the right to shop it around to different people. So, an option agreement, because it's also paid for, oftentimes is um, gives the producer more incentive to seek out monies and talent and so on while they're trying to get your script made into a film. Whereas a shopping agreement, it's has very little risk for the people involved. It has less risk. Um, an option agreement usually has a fee. It can be up to 10 to 20% of the purchase price. In a shopping agreement, there's usually no fee. Um, an option agreement is always exclusive, but a shopping agreement can be either exclusive or not, and that could be part of the terms. An option agreement can last from 6 to 18 months. A shopping agreement is usually shorter, 6 to 12. Um, in an option agreement, the producer has much more control, whereas a shopping agreement, it's the writer retains control. Um, and for the both of those though, the risk isn't that high because you're basically as the writer, you're giving somebody else permission, kind of like consignment if you had,
Yeah.
clothing or something, to sell your work, for a certain period of time that you mutually agree upon. So those are kind of the differences. Do you think I explained it pretty well?
Yes, yes. And I
Okay.
wanted you
All right.
to do the job because it's really important to for our audience to get
Mhm.
into the shoes of the writer because as a producer, you look for, okay, what makes more sense for me as a producer, and I can as well tell from experience, I had shopping agreements, option agreements, and I had agreements where there was like a co-production involved right away without either.
Hmm.
And when talking to investors, it's sometimes really difficult when you don't have the exclusivity. It's almost impossible because why would an investor, when I, as a producer or even an executive producer, this is
Mhm.
oftentimes the problem when people pull me in as an executive producer, which means like I do not produce and jump in into getting it made, but more look into how to get the money for a certain project. And when I then have like multiple potential executive producers that are shopping the property around, this can lead then to confusion because what happened in one example was that the screenplay was shopped overshopped. Can you say that?
Mhm.
So the shopping was overkilled because there was no exclusivity. So you can imagine what happens when all of a sudden like 20, 30 people are shopping around one screenplay and it ends up with the same investment companies. Whew, this is kind of a weird situation. Therefore, it's for a producer always better to option it to have, but also it comes with the responsibility to pay for it in the first place to say, okay, I really believe in that. But
Hmm.
at the same time, it's not just that the producer is more incentivized because they pay for it, but also it is the obligation. It's mine. It becomes my baby. I'm
Hmm.
attached to it more than just through a credit. It's really my reputation. When I say, and I put myself out there and say, I optioned it, I optioned Artania, it becomes mine for this time being.
Hmm.
And it has to be a success, especially as an indie filmmaker, indie producer. It's important that it's a success. We hear often these stories that studios optioned or streaming platforms optioned a certain property, be it a screenplay or a teleplay or whatever, or books, and then they optioned it for a couple of years even, and nothing happened. So this is in the
Hmm.
big environment, in the big fish
That's quite common, actually.
Yes, it's quite
Um,
common because
yes.
then they call the dips, so to speak, on the
Mhm.
property, and nobody else can like overshop it. So they claim it, they hold it, they
Mhm.
are clingy to it, But as an indie producer, when you have something and you option it, you put skin in the game because you invest in it. You as well put your reputation to that because usually you don't have like a zillion IPs floating around. You have a handful of selected optioned properties that you then try to either sell or get made. So,
And it's your
and
money on the line as well.
exactly, money, time, sweat equity, because
Mhm.
you go all in. This is all on my payroll as a producer. Whereas in a shopping agreement, you have other obligations then as a writer as well. So you are responsible then for when you want your
Mhm.
producer to go certain places, you have to negotiate again. You
Mhm.
have to say, okay, who is going to pay for the travel expenses or who is
Mhm.
paying for the festival? Where it's when it's with the producer and he optioned it or she optioned it, then it's in their hands. It's
Mhm.
theirs.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Now, I'm kind of curious now that we're talking, was the fact that there were five books already one of the factors that led you to offer me an option agreement?
yes, absolutely. As I told in previous sessions, I'm a huge Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling fan, and one of my things on my vision board was getting one of those made as a movie. And first, I thought I was the one who write it. And
Mhm.
I wrote as well a novel which is out there and maybe somebody will pick it up. So I have a kids fantasy novel there, the first book of a series. But I thought, okay, no, sometimes it's like you have this vision that you put on your vision board for a reason to get you in this direction, to find something else where you then partner and collaborate to build something bigger that
Mhm.
you could do yourself or that you had in your mind when you were creating that. And
Mhm.
when I came across Artania and when I read it, and when I saw that there's a series of books, I thought, wow, this lady, she got something and she is already a step ahead. So, and this is coming from this simple perspective of build or make, build or buy, which you have a lot in business. So either
Mhm.
you buy something or you build it yourself. Whereas
Mhm.
everybody knows when you build it from scratch, it takes longer. And especially when it comes to creative work, it takes longer. So there were already five books out there. So,
The fact the brand already existed was
exactly.
definitely a selling point. And
Yeah.
that's another thing for all you writers out there. You want to build your brand, and even if you're an emerging screenwriter, there are lots of things that you can do. You can post videos on TikTok. You can write short stories and put them out there. If you have a novel, you can try to get that published as well, or you can do the novelization of one of your screenplays. All of those things are going to help you to build your brand and lend more legitimacy to your screenplay and hopefully then, get it to the next step of either an option agreement or a shopping agreement.
But we spoke about that, and this could be something that we can address next week, maybe spaghetti on the wall, especially with all.
Yeah. I know about spaghetti on the wall. Yes, I know
And
about
Laurie
that.
knows exactly because we discussed it so often. Yes, you have to put yourself out there. You have to be proud of your IP, but you have to create relevant IP. And it makes a lot of sense to build your own brand and to have this visibility, to have this foundation that is when you want to be a writer, focus on that craft and don't have your profile, especially on social media, showing you as all kinds of people, but not focused on what you really intend to do.
Mhm,
Even though you might have skills in other fields, but for Laura, she's an author. So this is what I saw when I looked her up. She is an author. She has a lot of social media and her own blog. And so this exactly what you said. This created this kind of trust and credibility in you as a
mhm,
person. And so
mhm,
your brand is an author. And we spoke about that along our journey. What is it that you want to have as your positioning? Because this is what Sinvest, and this is unique about our model, is looking into to have this entrepreneurial mindset to position you as a writer, director, producer, wherever you want to
mhm,
go after this initial piece of art is
mhm,
produced through us. And so what we do is looking into what is your personal vision. And for Laurie, we had multiple conversations. What do you want to be? Do you want to step into the producer seat? And you said, no, I want to be a writer. I want to be the author. I want to have the possibility to just create worlds, sci-fi novels, fantasy novels, dwell in all these places, have
mhm.
all
That's
these
right.
mind movies on
Right.
paper.
Exactly.
And this is a very important sec to the next topic because sometimes we can as well overkill this in the way
Mhm,
we present and the way we pitch and emphasizing what is actually the message to the outside world, not just in the pitch meeting. The pitch meeting is very intimate. It's professional, but it's intimate. But what do I want the world to see me as? And then we come to the spaghetti on the wall, the thing, do you still want to be seen as an educator? Or are you grown out of this role and you are now the writer as who you are seen? And this is something that we will decipher more in the next episode and talk more about it and really demystify this new person that you are when you step into this next level of your career, of your life, and what comes with it.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, sounds good. Putting on that other hat. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Exactly. Not
Yeah.
just not just the hat, really like stepping into this total different energy. And
Mhm,
we're
mhm.
so excited to have you guys. And
Yes, we have.
we
Yes.
we are looking forward to birth a lot of magical creatures together and hope
Mhm.
we inspire you with our conversations. And what more is there to say? But until
But don't forget to push that like button and subscribe. We need you.
100%. Until next time. I was a bit too early.
Bye bye.
Bye.